Yeah, I had no plans of writing it. Hope is really hard to put our finger on. Yeah, so there's three primary categories, okay? Rule of three is at play here. And I had this moment, we were going through a hard season, and there's this, just a person who I just felt was against me, and was working actively against me. And I thought they were a friend. So it's just like this betrayal, peace, obedience. And it's the unlikely word. The one thing, if you can walk with Jesus and go where he wants you to go, do what he wants you to do, be where he wants you to be, then it doesn't matter what the situation looks like or feels like.
Well, everybody, and welcome back to the Help Me See show. And we are here again, excited to just continue growing a community of people that are challenging limiting belief systems, hearing stories of people who are seeing possibility and celebrating that, and then pushing past the familiar. And I'm really excited today. I have a guest that is on. His name is Brett Esslinger. And before I kind of ask you a few questions, the cool story for Brett and I is we've been called to pastor a good friend of ours, a combined friend, Brady Shearer. It takes two of us to pastor this guy. Brett has planted the seed, and I'm just trying to water this thing over here in Niagara. And so it's all jokes aside, it's awesome, man, to have you a part of things today. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, man, it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you. And as we've gone through this journey with Brady, I'm just grateful I'm not alone.
Hey, we gotta help this guy one way or another. It's great. So Brett, maybe just give us a quick, for those that don't know, you've been a pastor at Saints Church. How long have you been doing that? And you've been kind of out west Canada. Alberta has been most of, I believe, your ministry. Can you give us kind of a update on where are you? What have you been up to?
Totally. So born and raised Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. The joke is I'm probably going to die here, though I've been trying to get out the whole time. But sometimes the Lord has a way of just kind of keeping you where you're supposed to be. And so we know we're right in the middle of where God wants us to be. And we love our city. That's awesome. we love Edmonton. So we've been pastoring what is now known as Saints Church for 12 years total. We planted the church 12 years ago. This is before there was all these big conferences and organizations that would help you do that, right? So we did everything wrong according to those standards. We moved out to Spruce Grove, a suburb of Edmonton. We knew two other people, gathered a big team of 6, had these worship and prayer nights, started a movie theater with 24 people, grand total, and just kind of started going. It was called Engage at the time. Huh. Brady was in that journey. We had all others in that journey. 5 years ago, we got asked to come and lead a large Pentecostal church in Edmonton proper, and to also lead our church and to kind of infuse our culture into that church as it started a kind of a new life cycle. And we started that 5 months before COVID. And then boom, you got COVID hitting, and you're like, okay, this is wild. And you're making major strategic decisions with like zero pastoral trust, right? Like it takes like 5 to 7 years, like to build trust. And I'm rolling on 5 months.
5 months, yeah.
Right. And so you're like, okay, here we go. And through that, we changed all the names to Saint Church, unified everything under one name, and now have three locations here in the Edmonton area. And it's just been an amazing ride to see what God is doing and has done. And so Edmonton is it for us. Go Oilers! There you go. I'd love to see a Leafs Oilers playoffs final. Would be great.
I'm a Jets guy. I'm not really here for the Leafs, I'll be honest. But
I didn't want to bring it up because Jets just kind of,
hey, you know what? Good. It's a happier scene than the Leafs. That's all I got to say.
True, 100%.
100%. That's awesome, man. That's so cool. Well, I feel like we could talk a lot about that, but I want to talk about your book because I think this came out, I think just like maybe a month ago, a couple months ago. And I want to just kind of shout you out a little bit. It's called The Hope Habit, Daily Rhythms for Transformational Hope in a Broken World. And I'm really excited to talk about this because I was thinking about just the reality that hope is not all that common right now anywhere I look in our world. It's not common in the political climate. It's not really all that hopeful in the economic climate. You know, in a lot of the conversations I have in my neighborhood, like it's just, hope is not something that is like, seems like easily accessible or people are really holding on to. So I think this book is so good because I think people legitimately need a new way to look at life. And I love that you've kind of talked about it in the framework of it's not just a feeling, it's actually a habit. So maybe one of the things I know you shared online, maybe it was a few weeks back, but kind of the story behind this book, maybe we could start there. Talk about how you kind of got to writing this and what sort of sparked this for you.
Yeah, I had no plans of writing it. And lost a dear friend in Hamilton, Ontario. And his pastor is one of my best friends, called me, said, "Hey, we lost our friend Phil. Would you come out and help?" He's like, "I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the funeral. Can you kind of be on deck to do the funeral?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. We'll come out. We'll help no matter what. Like, you want me to set out sandwiches and cut them into square, whatever you need me to do, you know, like clean up, whatever. We're here." Yeah. So we showed up. The funeral's on a Saturday. He says, "Hey, I'm good for the funeral, but here's what I'm hoping you could do. Could you preach tomorrow at church, and everybody that's at the funeral is going to come tomorrow, including, you know, his widow, his kids, Phil's siblings, his parents, the extended family. And can you share a message of hope?" And I was like, "No." I mean, like, I can preach, but like in and of myself, I cannot share a message of hope. So Lord led me to some scripture. I opened it up, started reading, finished the sermon, finished the service, jump in the car after. And for any preacher watching, you kind of know, you ask your wife how you did. So, you know, and we're driving.
Was that good?
Yeah.
Would you connect? Did it connect?
Yeah. Cause I'm like, this is all, like, and I'm in this. Phil's my friend too. So I'm in this. I didn't know that I had clarity on how it went. And she says, "That needs to be a book." I was like, "Okay, you've heard me preach a lot. You've never said that before." So, okay. And that kind of started me down the road. That exactly started me down the road. And I was like, I guess we need to do this, and started the process. So, you know, about a year later now, here we are. It came out April 6th, Hope Habit. And, but it was born out of a painful moment where there seemed to be no hope.
Yeah. Wild. So I'd love to lean in for a minute around that idea of hope as a habit, because I know pretty quickly into the book, you talk about that idea of just hope is a habit versus a feeling. What was, you know, obviously you experienced this real time, but maybe unpack that a little bit. Like, what do you mean by when you say that?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Absolutely. So hope is really hard to put our finger on. But oftentimes we define it circumstantially. So if things are going well and I'm feeling good about something, I'm hopeful. Things aren't going well, but I have a reason to believe that I'm going to turn a corner. I'm hopeful. I'm going through some difficulty right now, but I've seen someone else go through it, so I'm hopeful. Now, here's the key to everything that I just said. The central figure in your definition of hope and my definition of hope has often been me.
Right.
What's going to happen for me determines my hope. And that's not hope. That's just belief in yourself. That's just belief in your circumstance. That's just belief in the circumstantial reality that you exist in, or that somebody else has existed in, that kind of causes you to go, "Oh yeah, no, I can get through this." But I would suggest that hope is more than a feeling, and it's more than a circumstance. It's in fact, it's a belief system that's beyond my temporal being. You know, the Apostle Paul talks a lot about this confident hope that we have, and he's talking about eternity. Because of what Jesus has done, we have eternity with him, that he laid down his life that I could have eternity. So our greatest example of hope, this confident hope that we have, is based on solely what Jesus has done. And the hope that we can have in our everyday life is based solely on what Jesus has done. And so the idea of a hope habit or hope as a habit is to create a watering system and a root system that allows my life to grow down, my roots to grow down into the love of Jesus. And out of that root system, hope begins to spring up. And it's no surprise that as our roots grow down into the love of Jesus, the hope springs up, because it's these three things that remain: faith, hope, and love. At the end of all time, these three things are hanging out. And it's why do we need hope in eternity, in a new heaven and a new earth? It must be something more than my earthly circumstance. It must be something more than just what I have limited my belief system to. It's so important that it's eternal. And my suggestion is that because hope has a name, and his name is Jesus.
Right.
So my goal is just to connect you to the source.
Yeah. That's so good. I think, a lot of us, you're right. It is pretty circumstantial. I feel hopeful because I can see my physical eyes, or I feel hopeful because it's going up and to the right, or I feel hopeful because, maybe I'm just optimistic as a human being. But what happens when those things fade away, or when your health isn't great, and when everything inside of you doesn't feel great, or you lose all the things, or all the circumstances in your world are not great? Then there must be something else. And I love that idea that, for us, obviously it is a faith thing. I know not for everyone on this show, it's necessarily begins with faith, but that belief system is so fascinating. You said something that just got me curious too. I haven't really thought about that in a long time. At the end of all of our days, the three things that remain: faith, hope, and love. That's such a fascinating idea that, of all the things that we think matter and we put our time and effort and energy into, faith, hope, and love. Because I don't think a lot about reclaiming hope. I don't think about how, that's it. That's just an interesting thought. Anyways, that was all I have.
Right at the end, because but if you so build out the theological argument that in new heaven, new earth, in eternity, that every tear's wiped away, that there's no tear, there's no pain, there's no suffering. So then why do I need hope? Because hope is something more than just eliminating my pain or helping me to have a brighter day, because all the things that we would need hope for don't actually exist anymore.
Yeah. You wouldn't need hope if it was something that is external or something that was internal. Hope, if it's rooted, if it has a name. Oh, okay, interesting. So now it's actually a misunderstanding of hope. It means we don't actually really understand what hope is.
Yep. Huh. Yeah, and I like to think of faith, hope, and love. In Ecclesiastes, we often use this at wedding ceremonies. We talk about the triple braided cord. But I think faith, hope, and love is a triple braided cord.
Yeah.
They're just so deeply interwoven that it's really, it's the only thing that can bring some separation to it and highlight each one is Jesus, where one starts and the other begins.
Right. And if they all are connected to him, these are, at this point, we're talking about attributes of Jesus. It's all connected to who he is. Love comes from him. Hope is him. Faith is actually a gift from him, not from ourselves, so that no man can boast. That. Those are very interesting things. It's not actually mine, it's his, which is so fascinating. That's so good. You talked as well about hope deferred makes the heart sick. Can you speak to that a little bit too? Because I think maybe that is a piece that, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people struggle to hold on to hope. And it seems like it is deferred. It seems like it's pushed aside, or it's maybe one day, but there's a sickness. I feel like maybe in our land, maybe it's global. I don't know. I feel it though. I feel like hope is not something that we actually have or we hold on to. Maybe speak to that, because I know you talk a lot about that as well too. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Yeah,
it's the first place I went when they say, could you bring a message of hope? To Phil's family. Hope deferred is such an interesting thought, because who's deferring the hope? Am I deferring the hope by my actions? By how I choose to live? Am I deferring the hope? Are these things happening to me, and therefore I'm defining the deferred hope as the things that are happening to me?
Yeah. Is it someone else's fault?
Right. Did someone do this to me? Because again, often it's just like, well, because of the things that are happening to me, I lose hope. Hope deferred, when it's pushed off, when it seems a long ways off. Well, again, if we're trying to redefine what hope is, well, if hope is a person, scripture says that I can draw near to him and he'll draw near to me. So who's deferring the hope in my everyday life and circumstance? If Jesus is my source of hope, then I'm deferring my hope by holding it off to try and make it happen on my own, to try and fulfill my own destiny, to achieve all the things that I want to achieve. And listen, I'm all about putting your head down, working hard, grinding it out. Like that's my default setting. I'm optimistic. I'm a grinder, all those things. Okay.
Sure.
But if I'm doing it only for me, at some point I will get to the end of it. Whether it's my hope deferred is in defeat, or it could also be in success. That my hope deferred is, I think that if I just work really hard, achieve all these things, check all these, I get to the very end, then I'll get my hope. And then you get there and it's empty.
Right.
You're like, what kind of joke is this?
Right.
And
That's
so
called retirement.
Yeah. And so so the heart sickness, our society is heart sick because we are deeply disconnected from the source of all hope. Now, I also say this, is that oftentimes a hard hope can feel like a hope deferred. And so I would define, a hard hope can feel like a hope deferred. So what happens when you get the exact thing that you were hoping for, believing for, trusting God for, and then it's not anything like you thought it was going to be? So I think that the best example is, as a pastor, I've prayed for lots of people who are trying to conceive, trying to have a baby.
Right.
And we've seen this miracle happen time and time again, where people conceive that weren't able to have a baby. They've been praying for it, believing for it. They get this baby, and it's the fulfillment of all their hopes and dreams, right? This is it. This is the moment. And then 4 nights in, you're like, oh my goodness, this is insane. This is crazy. I don't, what's up? What's down? Am I alive? Am I dead? What's happening? Like, and it's nothing more than having a baby. Like having a baby's hard, but you get into a hard hope season that you thought, man, my life will just be so much better. Here's the truth. It is. It's just way more difficult than you ever anticipated to be. And a baby's a simple analogy. This can happen in so many ways. You got the job that you were hoping for, you're dreaming for, believing for, the relationship, whatever category of life you get into, and you're like, oh man, this is it. And then it's like, what do you do when a hard hope feels like a hope deferred?
Yeah. I think it's easy to become probably disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't what I thought. This isn't what I signed up for. Maybe I got to work harder. Maybe it's still going to come. Or you just, or the other way you say, like you just said, you give up. You say, well, maybe this isn't what I thought. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, wow. These are great thoughts. So one of the things I love too is, this idea of, you've made it so practical around this idea of like, you can actually begin to lean into daily rhythms to find it. It isn't deferred to, 1 year down the road. It isn't just grind it out and then just, don't feel anything and I'll worry about hope later. I'm going to just, hustle and do everything I can now. Cause I know that is my tendency as well, is like, I don't need to feel anything right now. I'll worry about that later. I'm going to just, right now I'm going to hustle. But I like this idea of that there are actually practical steps that you could take to reclaim hope in your life. And some of those are daily, some of those are weekly, some of those are monthly, some of those are even annually. But you did such a good job of articulating some of those rhythms. Maybe for those that are listening, can you unpack those practical rhythms of reclaiming hope in your life?
Yeah. So there's 3 primary categories. Okay. Rule of 3 is at play here. Prayer, gratitude, and forgiveness. If we can create a root system, a watering system, a feeding system for our soul around prayer, gratitude, and forgiveness, you will find that hope is springing up in the most broken areas of your life. because there's a through line here. What does prayer do? Like, so I believe, so I'm a Christian, you're a Christian. I believe that there is an enemy who's trying to destroy my life. His name is Satan. He hates me. He hates my kids. He hates my family. He doesn't play fair. He wants to destroy my life. And the best thing that he can do is keep whispering a lie around prayer that either A, this isn't important, B, you're not doing it right, or C, you're not spiritual enough to even think about that. Because prayer is this thing that actually we carry a lot of shame around in church. Right. I'm not doing it enough. I can't figure it out. It's hard. I'm not doing it right. I'm not eloquent. Yep. And so, but what's happening? Well, you're just listening to a whisper. My suggestion is actually that prayer is it's built into you. It's hardwired into your DNA. When you hit turbulence on an airplane, what does everybody do, whether they're a believer or not? They grab the seats, They grab the hand of someone next to them. Somebody starts praying, and you're just like, "Oh my God, yeah, it's going down." And you're like, "Who are you crying out to?" Like, you just told me 3 minutes ago you're agnostic. Today you're believing and you're praying. Your prayer life is active, because it's instinctive. Right. It's instinctive because it goes back to the beginning. We were created, default setting was to walk and talk with God in the cool of the day. Our default setting was conversational. So if we could get to a place of prayer as conversation, prayer as relationship building, I'm building a relationship with the source of all hope, and take the shame out of it. And guess what? If I screwed up today, if I didn't make it today, if I didn't, for me, it's getting up early. If I didn't get up early today, well, his mercies are new every morning.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get up and do it tomorrow. I'm not going to keep score, because in 1 Corinthians 13, it says also love keeps no record of wrongs. Love doesn't keep score. So I'm going to get up today, and I'm just going to face a brand new day and go through it with Jesus today. So if we can get into a rhythm of prayer, Bible reading, again, you're like, man, that you wrote a book around these themes. I know. I was writing it going, I can't believe I'm writing a book around these themes. But the honest truth is so many of us feel so shamed and discouraged in this area that if I'm like, okay, can we make it practical though? Can we just like boil it all the way down?
Yeah. I love that so much about this idea of shame and prayer, because it's like, what a gift it is to just be able to just talk to God, like just lean in. You don't have to carry that, but you're right. Like, it's such a lie that we allow to permeate the church space, that I need to somehow do it like they're doing it on the platform, or I need to carry this like certain way, or things weren't answered the way I thought they should be. But I like that idea of just be free. Like, it's just a conversation. You were meant for this. You were designed for this. And it's only net positive by leaning in. Every moment is only net positive.
100%.
There is no negative. Like, what a freeing mindset to go, like, you don't have to carry any shame on this thing. Just lean in, you know? And then pray for a minute. And then why don't you try a couple? Like, wow, this is so good. Lean in for a few, Like, I love that.
Yeah. And so in the book, really just try and make it practical. Literally includes sketches from my own prayer journal, just to try and illustrate this is how we can think about it, how we can get there.
Yeah.
And we go, I don't know how to do this. Yes, you do. You know how to do this because you know how to text. You know how to send a text message. Because if you think about texting, what are you doing? You're in an open, ongoing conversation that's an open conversation thread. It actually never ends. The conversation doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So when we text, we're just picking up exactly where we left off, and the conversation just picks up, and we just continue. No matter how much distance is between us naturally, I can pick up and I can text you right now. The truth is my prayer is a supernatural text thread that's just open, and I'm just carrying on the conversation. We already know how to do this. You were created to do this. What you weren't created to do was to live without this.
To be isolated. To be disconnected. Yeah. So prayer, you talked about gratitude as well. Maybe unpack that one, because that's another one.
Totally. So here's what's really cool. Sometimes I think that we believe, especially if you're in the Christian space, that science is like attacking God. And I think science is just confirming all the things that God already knows.
Yes.
What he knows about humanity, what he knows about us. And so I stumbled onto a whole bunch of research. There's a great neuroscientist named Dr. Alex Korb. He's from UCLA. And he starts unpacking the power of gratitude, saying things out loud. So not negative thoughts are like 9 times more powerful than a positive thought. But you can actually diffuse the power of a negative thought by naming it, giving it a name, describing it, saying it out loud. You can begin to diffuse the power of that very thing that's grabbed hold of your mind. Now, let's think about this for a moment. In the book of James, it says, confess your sins to one another, that you would find healing, that you might be healed. Okay. So we often think of confession as negative, but if we combine this revelation through science, which is just confirming what we already know, that when I name and I say out loud the very thing that's grabbed hold of my heart and my mind, this negative thought, that it actually begins to diffuse it. So it diffuses it in the natural, but then when you layer in forgiveness, grace, the empowering presence of Jesus, you layer in the supernatural, the spiritual reality. Not only are you diffusing the power in the natural, but you are infusing it with supernatural power that you might be free from the very thing that's trying to strangle you out. And it all comes back to gratitude. So if I can be grateful and thankful, you are beginning to rewire the neural pathways in your mind and go, listen, I'm taking away the power of the negative thought. And I'm stepping into the power of gratitude. We layer that into, I enter his courts with thanksgiving. I enter his gates with praise.
Right.
Wow. How do I enter? How do I get closer to Jesus? Yeah. Gratitude.
So you're talking like you're stacking now.
Stacking.
I love that. Yeah, we use that. It's funny. We talk a lot about that language even here, this idea of redocking your neurons, that you can actually literally rewire your brain. You can redock these pathways. They actually, they either choke out because you don't entertain certain things, or you create new ones, right? And that idea that you can actually choose that in the natural, but then when you stack that with the supernatural, oh my goodness, like that's like, to me, that I think that's what's so fascinating about faith, that like it's actually so pragmatic for me that it's not even, for those that would say, oh, it's just, a crutch for those that are weak. Actually, I think it's one of the most practical things you could do. Like, I mean, why wouldn't you, when you can, begin to unlock some of those, things in your brain scientifically, physiologically, just by, doing that. And then, I mean, there's very little net negative for me. Like, it's just all positive.
And these principles exist in the earth. So whether or not you believe Dr. Korb's research or you believe the Bible, if you believe Dr. Korb's research, you're actually by default believing the Bible. And so you can put these principles into practice, whether or not you're believing it fully, and you're still going to get the benefit, but there's actually still more for you. And just like forgiveness is that last piece.
So prayer, gratitude,
and forgiveness. Because forgiveness is about setting you free.
Yeah.
Of all these things that you're carrying that people have done for you, and you've been defining your life by a hurt inflicted by somebody else, and you choose to carry that. And many times we actually infuse it into our own identity. And that's why we love a good diagnosis. That's why we love somebody going, oh, well, I just don't go there because I'm really like this thing really triggers me. Listen, like I understand that people can be triggered and those are real things, but we're taking all these terms and we're dumbing them down and we're applying them out of context. So the truth is, if you're probably triggered by a person, you're probably just harboring unforgiveness. Like, I hate to be the person that just is like bursting your bubble for a moment and going, no, you don't understand. No, here's what you're doing. What you think you're doing is you think you're gaining strength by holding on to the anger towards that person. You're using that strength as a superpower to get through the day, to face the day, and you just tap into it day by day when you think that you need it so that you can kind of get through. And you think if you let go of the strength, that you're not going to be that strong person anymore. So you're keeping anger underneath the surface. And you're allowing it to define who you are and who you are becoming. Now, if you let go of that, which is a complete act of surrender, a complete act of humility, you're actually going to start relying not on your own natural strength, but on the strength that's only found in Jesus. He's going to give you that strength, and your true identity is going to emerge. Not the trauma-informed identity, because the trauma-informed identity starts lopping off areas of opportunity in your life. Well, you can't go do that. You can't go do there because you're defined by the pain that you experience over there. You can't be with that person because if you step into that room and they're there, they're going to ruin your whole day. Well, now I've just defined every sphere, my social sphere, my creative sphere, my work environment by other people.
Yeah. And like you said, you name your, like it's a pick your diagnosis kind of world. So now it's like, I can't do that job because I have this 80 version of whatever that is. And I have this thing. So now you top all those things together, you stack them all up, and it's such a limiting mindset. It's such it's actually so many barriers that you're in your own prison, you know?
Yep. Prison of my own making.
So I love that. So those three things, prayer, forgiveness, or prayer, gratitude, forgiveness, you would kind of lump those into, would that be a root system? Is that what you're saying? That's the root system you're looking to actually grow deep into the foundation of actually Jesus.
Yeah.
That he is
into his love.
Into his love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess that's how you root yourself in faith, hope, and love. Ah, got it.
Yeah.
That's great. Wow, that's so good. So you talked about daily, weekly, monthly, yearly.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Some of those habits.
Sure. So this can happen in any number of ways, and so I gave some suggestions for people on how they can do this. But so if we just think about that concept, there's just like these are regular routines and checkpoints. Because if you're not accountable on some level to something,
right. It's just theory. Yeah.
In the areas like, let's talk about blind spots for a moment. One of the things that you can do is have a monthly conversation with somebody that you trust in your life to go, what do I not see about me?
Yeah.
Like, what am I not seeing here? Like, what's the broken piece? What's the triggered piece? What's the part that there's just something simmering on the surface that I don't get? Where's my rough edge? And I can just have this open and honest conversation about this. And I can do that monthly and regularly, because oftentimes we don't check up on us. We just check up on others.
Right.
And if I'm not aware of it, I can't do anything about it. I can't confront it. I can't surrender it. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Now let's zoom out to a year. Oftentimes, our good friend Brady says something like this. We way overestimate what we can do in a year, but we way underestimate what we can do in 10.
That's right.
So if I create an annual check-in, and I go back and I've actually created a resource that you can actually grab it even if you don't get the book. You can head to hopehabit.com, hit the resources button, and there's a spiritual inventory. How am I doing? How am I doing right now? I suggest that you do the spiritual inventory every year and watch the little checkpoints. Now, I would also, if we're going to talk about stacking and layering it, I'm a note taker. Like the whole idea of the book is it's like field guide, like it's my notes. So I use an app called Notion. There's 1,000,001 other apps out there people can use. I document everything, any thought that comes to my mind, any situation, circumstance. It's probably the product of being a preacher, right? Probably similar to like a comedian or whatever. I'm always like making notes about everything that I see around.
Yeah. Everything's content. Everything's illustration.
100%. And
everything's branding.
Right. And it's just my practice. But good, bad, and ugly. So by then going into my prayer journal, I can write down what I've been praying for, and then I can write down when the breakthrough actually happened. And now I've got a written record of what God's doing in my life. So then I layer that with my spiritual inventory, and I say, wow, look at this area in my life where I'm really growing. I really feel like I'm flourishing in this area. And now I can go back and I can cross-reference it with, I prayed this prayer here. God answered it here. And now a year later, I can see the fruit, the evidence of that happening. And so just simply a yearly check-in with yourself.
Yeah.
is amazing. I think also great yearly example is like going to a retreat or a conference, something that's going to feed your soul spiritually. As pastors, we probably go to too many, but I think for anybody else in life, I also think that there's something to be said about like investing in yourself.
Yes.
And so I actually do this. I don't do it necessarily connected to a conference. I do this connected with a vacation. So we generally go on a family vacation. Generally, it's about 3 weeks. It's a newer practice, and we started extending the time. I realized for me that I don't come all the way down until like day 8. And then I start to climb like 7 days out. So I need the extra week, not 2. I need the 3 so that I can actually be there. And baked right into that is my time of looking back and reflecting, note-taking, believing for the year ahead, and go, this is my check-in. And I can tie it to rest. Because for me, the greatest inspiration comes on a hot day in a pool. Probably because I don't have a device. I don't have a phone. I have nothing like that around me. Maybe I'm reading something. Probably not. I'm just able to process.
And in Edmonton, that's like once a year, a hot day in the pool, which is
100%.
great.
Right. I got to go somewhere else to find it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny as you actually triggered a thought too, because I agree. I feel like the best version of that is a human version where somebody's giving you feedback as well. But I recently, I actually asked ChatGPT, I said, based on all my interactions with you over the last however long it's been, what are some of my blind spots? And it was incredibly accurate. Like my wife looked at me and said, that is actually a problem for you. So one of them was like, it said, you tend to trust what you can see around you, including the people you're connected to. You might need to actually stretch your muscles around connecting with people outside of your sphere. And so funny enough, we were talking and I was like, dang, I should do that. So I think I actually reached out to you because we were chatting back and forth about, I forget what it was. And I was like, hey man, you want to do the show? But it was actually came out of a blind spot that was like, wow, you actually are leaning in a little bit too much on what what's around you, what's in your sphere. So funny enough, like I think the human component's probably the best version of that. But the fact that AI actually pinpointed a blind spot for me was actually really interesting. I mean, that's one practical thing. I was like, that I got to keep leaning in on like, what are the things that I'm missing? What am I not seeing? So that I don't defer hope, so that I don't miss the opportunities I have to, grow those deep roots. So I love that. That's that.
What if you did this? What if you took a spiritual inventory, and you could use mine, you can use any of them, and fed that annually into chat?
Yeah.
And now you just, hey, upload this to your memory, and then start referencing back, hey, now correlate this with my blind spots or correlate this with another data point or with my interaction. And I wonder what might come out. Because I mean, obviously
monthly check-ins,
totally,
you could do the whole thing. You could do your rhythms kind of practically. It's kind of like an accountability partner AI,
Yeah, and I do think you got to at some point take it into the real realm, take it into a human connection.
I agree.
But there's all kinds of tools that we can use to help us. And that's all AI is. That's what a book is. That's what a spiritual inventory is.
Yeah.
It's just tools that we can use to help us become more aware of who we are or who we're not or who we're becoming. Yeah. And it's a pretty cool thing.
That's so cool. So you talked about monthly, kind of annually. Anything kind of daily, weekly, things that you lean into? What have you kind of learned or discovered in that world?
Yeah. So I'm going to flash it all the way back to prayer. I just can't overstate this enough. Daily connection through prayer. So Justin and I actually performed an experiment. It's an experiment that I'm going to take so much heat for, but I'm okay with it. And it operated in certain parameters. So it happened on vacation, and I did it with full knowledge of my wife, and I did it to learn more about me and my relationship with God. I decided to not pray and read the Bible for 3 weeks straight. And then I document, and I didn't go to church, and I wasn't ministering and all those things. I was on vacation. And I decided to document my daily interaction and experience. And what I anecdotally discovered is that I have less patience. I'm more angry. I flip a switch quicker. I'm less like reflective. I'm more in the moment, and I'm not like big picture.
Yeah.
I just so all the little things. I literally just realized that I'm anecdotally a better person when I pray and read the Bible every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's not for everybody. That's not an experiment for everybody. And someone goes, "Why would you do this?" I'm like, because I had a suspicion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can just tell you the A-B is so significant.
Wow.
And so I think the daily practice of doing that, a daily practice, honestly, let's move into the gratitude category of just saying thank you. We think that we're grateful and that we say thank you, but we don't say thank you as nearly as much as we think it. So I'm thankful, when somebody holds the door or, whatever. And those are little funny things, but like, so one of your colleagues at work does something significant for you in your head. You're like, man, that was so kind.
Yeah.
When was the last time you said, hey, thank you? That was actually so kind. Because especially like if you're a words of affirmation person, I'm not, but other people are. Man, if you could say that thing to them and say what it actually means to you, it changes everything. Like it changes the day, it changes the month.
I heard someone online actually express it this way today. Actually, I think it was this early this morning. It was this idea that the male equivalent version of "I love you." So, if a man says "I love you" to a woman, whatever, the equivalent back to most men. So this wouldn't maybe necessarily be all men, but is "thank you."
Yeah,
is "thank you." Like that. That's actually like a deeply rooted expression of love because it's like, "Thank you, I see you."
Yeah,
I see all your hard work. I see your toil. I see the things you're going through and I appreciate it. I love you. It's like, it is an expression. I think it's actually a very spiritual expression.
100%.
To practice gratitude.
Dr. Emerson Emmerich has a book called Love and Respect, and it talks about this flywheel in a marriage that men need respect and women need love, and that they give love. Men give love when they feel respected, and women give respect when they feel loved.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that applies directly right here. That if I'm giving respect and I'm giving respect through gratitude, that I'm actually actively loving a brother or sister, that I'm actively loving somebody by just simply expressing the things that are in my mind. Because it's not like I didn't think it; it just didn't get out. True. So if I could just
practice saying these things,
right? Can I say it? And like a simple goal of like, I'm going to say thank you more today. And even have a number. Hey, I want to say thank you 10 times today.
Yeah.
And just go, I'm going to do this every day. And then maybe ratchet up your number. I want to be known as somebody who's known as expressing like gratitude and appreciation. I don't want to leave anything on the table.
Yeah.
No, like I don't want to leave anything unsaid, right? Like what if you lose that person? Like maybe they just quit work and you don't work with them anymore. And you have all this pent up thing that you would have loved to say to them, but you can't connect anymore. So let's not leave anything on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a interestingly not very well modeled thing in our culture. This, to be generous with your words, even with your neighbors, like, nope. Like I'm, I had a neighbor recently that, he's a bit of a grumpy one of my neighbors, and but he has this one thing he does really great is he's the softest, kindest guy with his grandkids. And I just talked to him the other day, and I said, did you know you're an incredible grandpa? Like the way you are with your grandkids, like is just. I said it's awesome. I said I love how you play hockey with them in the backyard. I said, you spend time, like you're attuned with them. And he legit did not know what to say. He's like, oh, thank you. But it was such a interesting moment. I was like, when's the last time, somebody pointed that out for him? But like, what a gift that is, and nothing great about me, but it was a moment of like, wow, like I want to be that. And there's something so beautiful about expressing gratitude that actually changes you. Yep. You begin to see things that I think you never even, it's a discipline that as you do it, it actually forms your thinking. You begin to see with eyes of gratitude instead of, judgment or the worst. I think it actually shifts your brain. Like that's the craziest thing.
Even something as simple as like writing a thank you note. Some of Dr. Korb's research, talks about the power of writing a letter to somebody, whether or not you ever deliver it even. I would suggest, hey, deliver it. But sometimes you can't, and just like writing it and getting it all out.
Yeah.
It's just got this incredible healing power. And you're just expressing your thanks. I even think like shouting out people that have made an impact in your life. So it's kind of conference season. So I've been, going to conferences, been on panels and these kind of things. And I always want to shout out my youth pastor who believed in me when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, gave me my first opportunity to speak at a youth group of 250 kids with him. He took some of his time, says, hey, you got 7 minutes before I get up. Didn't know if I could speak, just gave me an opportunity and kept giving me an opportunity all the way through my teenage years. Continued making spots in a place, gave me a seat at the table. I think shouting those people out and just acknowledging that I'm here in large part because of something that they did, not because of something that I did, because of something that they saw when I couldn't see it in myself. And saying thank you kind of just reorients my mentality, even around me. Hey, these are my strongest gifts. Yeah, but you weren't even aware of those gifts until somebody else called it out.
That's right. Yeah, it almost kind of like realigns you to what is actually true. Puts you in your proper place of like, hey, this isn't all my doing. I'm also not the worst. When you feel like you're at your worst, it puts you in your proper place with yourself, with others, with God. And what a gift that is. Okay, what about forgiveness? What does that rhythm look like?
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to get here. I think one of the simplest things that I would suggest people to do is to daily, as a part of your prayer rhythm, I think one of the components of the Lord's Prayer is forgiveness. It's baked right in. And so every day, as a part of my stacked onto my prayer routine, is God, is there anyone that I'm holding unforgiveness towards? Is there anything in here that I need to deal with? Yeah. And some days you might not need to ask. Some days Yeah. And I had this moment, we were going through a hard season, and there's just a person who I just felt was against me, and was working actively against me. And I thought they were a friend. So it was just like this betrayal piece. And I didn't like the way that I was feeling. Like I could feel it. Like I could just feel something. And we were doing this early morning prayer at church for a season. And during one of those things, I remember it so vividly. I was sitting at our Glory Hills campus looking outside of a window. We had 6 acres, and I was looking just out into the green. And the Lord brought that person to my attention. And then I was reminded in Romans 12, it says, bless those who persecute you. And I'm like, no.
Not him.
I also I don't think I'm persecuted, but I understand what the Lord was highlighting to me, that you felt you're attacked by this person. You feel like I want you to bless them. I can tell you, as a part of that rhythm of forgiveness, if I have to pray a prayer of blessing and pray a prayer of blessing over that person and over their family and over their family members by name, and I have to do that, the first time you do it, you're going to do it with like gritted teeth, and you're not going to you're like, I can't believe I have to do this. As you get into that practice, you can't stay angry in the same way.
It's true.
And so I think if we identify daily, is there anything that I'm harboring? And then you start going, okay, how am I going to deal with this? I'm going to pray a prayer of blessing over that person. And for me, it took a season of time. It took about 3 weeks for that to process through my heart. But here's the thing. Forgiveness is a daily battle. And every once in a while, that pops back into my mind or pops back into my heart, or I have another interaction. And then what do I have to do? I have to start back at square one and go, okay, I'm going to just pray this prayer of blessing. There's another couple that, again, I just felt it was just, they weren't necessarily actively against me, but it was just like, I could feel there was something in my heart, like, holding on to them. And I think like being a pastor, this kind of happens. We have so many interactions with so many different people.
Yeah.
And
it's called the lobby.
Yeah, totally. Or emails.
Or emails, yeah.
And it's like, okay, I started praying for them. And you know what? It actually changed the tone of our whole relationship.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know that it actually changed them. I think it changed me.
Yeah. Well, that's forgiveness, right? Like it's such we think it is about them and somehow justifying what they've done or like making them pay for, or the justice side of us.
Yeah.
But it's actually about becoming free inside of me. It's about freedom inside. It's about coming out of my own prison. And I think even to go back to what you were talking about, gratitude, I think that actually, like, to write a letter and to actually express, like I remember one of my counselor friends talking about, one of the things he gets people to do is to actually write. And sometimes it's a scathing letter of all the things to this person who's hurt them. Not to send it, but to write it, to get it out. And actually what you're doing is you're confessing. You're confessing, you're letting that thing go. And then you actually go through the process of actually, either burning that letter, letting it go, destroying it, releasing it. But it's just a physical representation of forgiveness. I mean, that's so good. Like, that's so good. And I love how practical that is.
Yeah. And I think we should put an asterisk on forgiveness as well, right? Because sometimes people go, well, I can't forgive, or if I forgive them, then I'm going to let them back into my life. No.
Right.
So if there's an incredible heinous injustice that's been perpetrated against you, you can forgive that person and not give them access to your life. Because trust, like forgiveness and trust are two different concepts. So I can forgive you and I don't trust you. Yeah. I don't have to let you back in the same way. I don't have to give you access to everything. You don't regain your place, your position necessarily. It's not about going, okay, well, I forgive this person, so I guess I got to welcome them all the way back in. No, there's some very real stuff that you walk through, and there was some trust that was broken, and there's going to be a journey to regain or restore that trust. And if we're being honest, there's some scenarios where it's almost impossible for somebody to regain that trust because of what they've done to you. But that doesn't mean you can't forgive them. And just because you forgave them doesn't mean that trust is restored and it's come all the way back.
Yeah. 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 I always think of it as like a door that, like, the door's there. And if trust is built, I'm willing to re-walk through that door. But you're right. Like sometimes the door's shut for now, or sometimes the door is like, it's got a lock on but you're right. The forgiveness piece is, it's a discipline to choose that. Sometimes that's daily. Sometimes you got to pick that up, in a rhythm that's like, it's a process. It's not maybe a one-off, but as you lean in, as you discipline into that, as you practice that habit or that rhythm, I do think freedom is on the other side of it, which is so beautiful. Okay. Maybe as we kind of wrap up a few things, I guess I was just thinking of somebody today who is just really struggling to hold on to hope. And maybe it's, all the things that life has thrown at them. Maybe it is, their environment, their upbringing, all the things that would be easy to, point a finger at, like it's because of this. But yeah, I guess just somebody who's like really struggling to keep hope. Maybe it's in their marriage, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's in a dynamic around what they hoped for in their life, what it would look like. If there was like kind of one thing you would say to somebody like that, what would you say? What would you want them to know?
If I was having a conversation with you, I would say, first, I hope that when you wake up tomorrow, that you would start with forgiving you. That you've heaped all this expectation on yourself of where you could go and who you should be. Maybe it's been heaped on you. And you're struggling now to come up for air because you're crushed under the weight of expectation. Could I just encourage you to wake up tomorrow and take a moment to set yourself free from the very weight that's holding you down? That you can actually forgive yourself for putting yourself in this position. And it sounds as simple as, man, and I would do this through prayer, and I would do this directed to the Lord. God, help me forgive me for placing my expectation above everything else in my life. Help me forgive me for beating myself down when I couldn't make happen what I thought I should be able to accomplish. God, help me, forgive me for holding back good things in my life and other people's lives because I'm not enough for me. I would beg that person to let themselves off the hook first. Because I just wonder if the source of discontent comes from an expectation of who they think they should be. And it's at war with the person that they were created to be.
Yeah, wow. That right there is it. That's it. Who you expected yourself to be, who you thought you should be versus what God has created you to be. Wow, like that's such a freeing idea that you don't have to be all the things. You don't have to do all the things. You get to just be a child of God. You get to just be, it's like that childlike faith. You get to just be someone who's connected to him. You get to be someone who dreams again. You get to be someone who is just not believing the worst and is just free with the people around them to be gracious and to be, generous with their words, full of gratitude, fully connected, fully present, letting go of the things that are holding them back. I mean, what a beautiful picture.
Yeah. And I think that's what hope looks like. I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's all of these little shreds and all these little pieces woven together, and rooted and grounded in the love of God. And it just kind of begins to spring up. It's kind of like, where does the grass come from? Well, it's always been there. It was these seeds that were planted, but all of a sudden the rain comes and it just starts to spring up. All of a sudden you build these watering systems and all of a sudden hope begins to spring up.
That's awesome. That's so good, Brett. Thanks for sharing, man. Some of these, I think some of these thoughts are so liberating. And if, somebody's watching, even for me, I feel like, man, I want to practice some of those rhythms again. I want to be more actually intentional about running myself through, prayer, gratitude, forgiveness, and, as a daily function. I love that. So for me, that's been super helpful, man. Thank you so much for sharing some of these, some of your thoughts today. So good.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you and talk to everyone who's listening and watching. Yeah. And I love what you're doing here. And I told you this before, I love the set. It's incredible. It's amazing.
Thanks, buddy.
And you just make all this look good.
We're trying. We're out here it's kind of this side dream thing that actually I was at a conference, funny enough, and I felt like God was like, it was time to begin to take some of these ideas and dreams and, lean in creatively to go like, man. And for me, the why was that. It was just, if I could just help one person see possibility in all these different arenas. And this one is, I feel like, such a holistic arena of our lives, faith, hope, and love. So yeah, to me, it's awesome. It's a gift to, be able to do some of this. So, okay, before you go, I got 4 rapid fire questions for you. And then I want you to tell people where they can go find all this stuff and get the book and follow you on Instagram and on social and everything. But okay, quick rapid fire question. One book that helped shape your hope. That wasn't the one you wrote, but.
Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster.
Okay. Celebration of Discipline, Richard Foster. One habit that's changed your hopeful perspective.
Saying thank you. It's that just saying thank you more and the reaction on the other side. Because when we're trying to feed hope, we're trying to feed ourselves, but sometimes by feeding others, you can actually feed yourself.
Yeah, it's full circle. That's so good. Something hopeful you've seen this month.
All the research that's coming out about the quiet revival happening in the UK, college campuses in the United States. I've heard of a young adult gathering in British Columbia. These things are popping up, and what God is doing amongst young people, a hunger that's there right now, particularly Gen Z, particularly Gen Z men, is incredible.
I love that. It's such a cool time to be a part of faith community. Brady and I were actually talking about this. Like I've never been in a world where people are more open and interested and coming on their own, literally driving into our church parking lot, just showing up. Like there's like a openness that was always like you had to kind of apologetic or speak to the logic or sort of try to argue. I don't know. It was like there's just an openness right now. There's a hunger. It's almost like we've been disillusioned with whatever it is that they've been fed. And there's got to be a better way. So to me, it's such an exciting season to be in a faith community. So I love that. Okay, last one is what is hope fulfilled? So kind of the opposite of hope deferred. What does hope fulfilled look like to you as you think about, the upcoming season, and what are you excited about? But yeah, I guess that's a better question. What does hope fulfilled look like to you?
Obedience. And it's the unlikely word. The one thing, if you can walk with Jesus and go where he wants you to go, do what he wants you to do, be where he wants you to be, then it doesn't matter what the situation looks like or feels like. You're living right in the middle of hope fulfilled. And so for me, it just comes back to obedience. Dr. Charles Stanley has this saying, obey God, leave the consequences to him. And so if I can know that I'm obedient to the call of God in my life, no matter what sphere it is, then I can face almost anything that's coming my way. And that's what that hope fulfilled looks like to me, is just obedience lived out.
So good. That's awesome, man. People who want to grab the book, people who want to follow you, where can they kind of find some of this information? Where can they find the book? How can they follow you? Online?
The easiest way is to find the book. You can go to hopehabitbook.com. It's my website. You can buy it right there. Or just head to Amazon, type in The Hope Habit, and we've got it, Kindle, Audible, hardcover, paperback, whatever you want, we got it for you. It's on Amazon.
You got it.
Easiest way to get it. To follow me, it's maybe hard to spell, but at Brett Esslinger on all the platforms. 2 S's, ESS, and you can find me there. And I'd love to connect. I also do, for pastors and leaders, I have a weekly email called Leadership Essentials, and I'd love to connect with you with just some actionable, practical tools you can put to work right now.
That's so good. Well, thanks so much, man, for being on the show. And I know people are going to be encouraged as they dive into hope. And that my hope is that, people who are listening, again, that the idea would be that hope would not be deferred. It would actually be something they reclaim in their life, in their home, in their family. So I know people are going to be encouraged, Brett, and just cheering you on, man, as you lead in your church and lead in your family. And so thank you, man, so much for being on, and appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Absolute honor. Say hi to the fam and say hi to Mr. Shear for me.
I will do that. I'll do that. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for watching. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, just hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, or you can follow me on Instagram at @Driedger. And if you have a question, or if there's someone you would like to be featured on the show, shoot me an email at hello@helpmesee.ca. And together, let's keep challenging limiting belief systems, choosing to see possibility, and pushing past the familiar. This is the Help Me See Show. Always just these conversations for just how can we, at the end of the day, it's like, if we're better as humans, we're better as leaders, like all the strategy stuff, it kind of works itself out. Like, it's at the end of the day, I think who we are is just the most important of all of it. So I love that.